The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Law 22. Mastering Power Dynamics, the Art of Surrender. In Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power, Law 22 advises individuals to embrace the surrender tactic, transforming apparent weakness into a strategic power move. This law draws inspiration from historical events and stories that illustrate the effectiveness of surrendering when confronted with overwhelming force. In essence, the law suggests that yielding outwardly while maintaining inner strength can be a powerful strategy in the game of power dynamics. The Melian Dialogue. Power and surrender in ancient Greece. The island of Melos, situated strategically in the Mediterranean, faced a critical decision during the Peloponnesian War. The Athenians, a dominant naval power, sought to conquer Melos, urging them to surrender and become allies. The Melians, clinging to notions of honor and resistance, rejected the offer, hoping for Spartan aid. The Athenians, practical and ruthless, invaded Melos, massacring the men, enslaving women and children, and colonizing the island. The Melians' refusal to surrender led to their destruction, highlighting the importance of strategic surrender in the face of overwhelming power. The Chestnut and the Fig Tree. Wisdom in Yielding. An allegorical tale featuring a chestnut and a fig tree emphasizes the wisdom of surrender. The chestnut, protected by spines, mocks the vulnerability of the fig tree. However, the fig tree astutely points out that even with protection, the chestnut's offspring can be crushed. This story illustrates the nuanced dynamics of power and vulnerability, emphasizing the strategic value of surrender and adaptability. Voltaire's Diplomacy. Surrender as Deception. Voltaire, facing an angry English crowd, skillfully employed surrender as a tactic. Instead of resisting, he acknowledged their desire to harm him and cleverly remarked on his misfortune of not being born English. The crowd, appreciating his wit, escorted him safely away. Voltaire's diplomatic surrender showcased the art of using apparent weakness to gain the upper hand, a theme recurring throughout history. Brecht's subtle surrender, mocking the inquisitors in the face of the House Un-American Activities Committee's scrutiny during the Red Scare. Bertolt Brecht opted for a subtle surrender strategy. While his Hollywood colleagues chose confrontation, Brecht appeared compliant, wearing a suit, smoking a cigar, and answering questions politely. By seemingly yielding to the committee's authority, Brecht avoided imprisonment and left the U.S. untouched. His approach showcased the power of surrender as a form of deceptive compliance. Lessons from historical examples. Surrender as a strategic tool. Drawing from historical examples, the law emphasizes the practicality of surrender in navigating power dynamics. The Athenians' pragmatic approach to Melos, Voltaire's witty surrender, and Brecht's strategic compliance all underscore the idea that surrender can be a tool to outmaneuver adversaries, buying time for a more significant countermove. The essence of surrender. Outward yielding, inward strength. The key to the surrender tactic lies in outward yielding while maintaining inner strength. By avoiding unnecessary confrontations and appearing submissive, individuals can manipulate their adversaries' expectations. This tactic requires self-control, as genuine surrender involves sacrificing freedom and enduring humiliation. However, the facade of surrender, akin to an animal playing dead, conceals a latent power that can be harnessed when the time is ripe. The Tao of Surrender. Yielding to overcome. The philosophy of surrender is reminiscent of ancient Chinese wisdom, as demonstrated by King Gujian of Yu. After a defeat, Gujian surrendered to the ruler of Wu, working as a servant to study his conqueror. Over time, he gathered intelligence and orchestrated a successful revenge. This exemplifies surrender as a means of biding one's time, gaining insight, and eventually turning the tables on a more powerful adversary. Japanese adaptation, infiltrating through surrender. In 19th century Japan, facing the threat of foreign influence, a minister proposed a strategic surrender. By forming friendly alliances, learning from foreigners, and gradually exerting influence, Japan could assimilate foreign strengths while preserving its culture. This soft invasion tactic, akin to surrender, allowed Japan to navigate external pressures without outright resistance. The power of mockery, surrender as subtle ridicule. Milan Kundera's novel, The Joke, narrates how prisoners used over-obedience, surrendering to the guards' expectations. The prisoners turned the event into a farce, demonstrating a form of resistance through apparent compliance. This showcases surrender as a tool for subtle mockery, disarming adversaries without engaging in direct confrontation. Long-term maneuverability, surrender for future triumph. The law emphasizes the importance of long-term maneuverability over short-lived glories. Surrender, as opposed to martyrdom or futile resistance, allows individuals to preserve their ability to strike back when the time is right. The narrative of Gujian in ancient China highlights how surrender can provide the necessary time and flexibility to plan and execute a devastating counterblow. The wisdom of patience, surrender for strategic advantage. In advising surrender, the law promotes patience and self-control as essential skills in power dynamics. Yielding in the short term may lead to a more favorable position in the long run. The analogy of the oak tree illustrates this point. The tree that bends in the wind lives longer, with a stronger trunk and deeper roots, compared to the one that resists and loses branches. Biblical wisdom, surrender in the face of adversity. The law draws on biblical teachings, specifically the concept of turning the other cheek and surrendering to adversity. By advocating non-resistance to evil, the law aligns with Jesus Christ's words in Matthew chapter 5 verses 30a to 41. This biblical wisdom reinforces the idea that surrender, when used strategically, can be a potent tool in the realm of power dynamics. Reversal, the messy art of martyrdom. While surrender is advocated as a strategic tool, the law acknowledges that there are times when martyrdom seems inevitable. The reversal of surrender, martyrdom, is described as a messy and unpredictable tactic. While it can grant a certain form of power, it is also fraught with uncertainties, and the individual won't be around to enjoy the fruits of this power. The selfishness of martyrdom, surrender versus glory. The law critiques martyrdom as a tactic, highlighting its unpredictability and the inherent selfishness in seeking personal glory at the expense of followers. It suggests that surrender, when used strategically, allows individuals to preserve their lives, maintain influence, and plan for a future resurgence, in contrast to the uncertainty of martyrdom. Conclusion, the fluidity of power dynamics. In conclusion, Law 22 advocates mastering the art of surrender in the fluid arena of power dynamics. By examining historical examples, philosophical principles, and strategic applications, the law demonstrates that surrender, when employed with finesse, can be a powerful and versatile tool. It emphasizes the importance of outward yielding, inward strength, and long-term maneuverability, providing a comprehensive guide to navigating the complexities of power relations. In the game of power, the ability to strategically surrender can be the key to enduring influence and eventual triumph.